Hey everyone, Mark here with Amplified.training. Before we dive into today's topic, I just want to remind you to follow me over on Instagram as Amplified.training. I also offer one-to-one coaching, and if that's something you'd be interested, the odds are very good. I'd love to work with you. With that being said, let's talk about squat training for the strongman athlete. So while the squat itself is not necessarily a competition-specific lift for the strongman athlete, unless of course it is coming up in a show, in which case it's usually done 4 reps, there's a reason you see a squat in most any athlete's program the world over, from football, tennis, soccer. Squatting is done because it's one of the best ways to improve your athletic potential and lower body strength. With that being said, in the context of strongman sport, what we want to think about is how we can train it in the way to best improve our strongman performance. You're going to have guys like Martin Lysis, Olympic lifting background, they do a ton of squatting. Whereas someone like Derek Poundstone, he did virtually no squatting. Like most things, the reality is we should probably be somewhere in the middle, which we'll dive into a bit more. At day's end, we want to treat the squat as a glorified accessory that helps us get better at our primary sport. So how you go about programming your squat is going to have a very big impact on your success, as opposed to which variation of the squat you're going to use. In general, I recommend squats be trained between 60 to 80% of your 1 rep max. That way they don't take too much out of you. And as far as the programming goes, I like to think of the squat as 3 different ways for the strongman athlete: muscle building hypertrophy work, a developmental phase, or event support. When it comes to hypertrophy, I'm of the opinion that if you're not actively prepping for a strongman show, you should be either trying to lose body fat and push your conditioning, or trying to gain muscle and strength. In terms of mass building for the strongman athlete, the squat can be trained with most any standard bodybuilding protocol, but here's a few personal ones that I really like. Additionally, a lot of these will have a little bit of a conditioning element just due to the density of work being done. My number one choice is the 20 rep high bar or SSB squat. And as far as building up to this, think breathing squats, right? You unrack the bar and you take as long as you're going to take to get that work done. If you look on the right there, you'll see that's a picture of me doing the most painful set of my life, where I worked up to 315 for 20. And how I did that was I started by taking 80% of my 1 rep max at the time, and I would do a set of 3 with it. Then after that, I would do a set of 12 to 20 at 60%. Every time I hit 20 reps on that second set, I would just add 10 pounds, rinse and repeat. It was very much a brute force equation. In my upcoming program, Kenjigit 2, I actually have a much more sane and sustainable 20 rep squat progression baked in. My second option is just kind of your basic bro option, and I like doing this with a high bar, SSB, or a Hatfield style squat. 3 to 4 sets of 8 to 12, between 65 and 75% of a training max. And the last one is a density protocol. So you could do this with high bar squats, front squats, SSBs, where you're just going to take the bar, load it to 60%, and you can do as many sets of 5 as you can in 20 minutes. And then once you hit 8 sets in that 20 minutes, add weight for next time. The density one, you're going to get a lot of work done really quickly, and as you can see, be very conditioning intensive. But any of these will work really well for helping you build a better set of wheels. As far as developmental waves go, these are kind of Swiss Army knife protocols. They're not necessarily going to be as good as building your event work as event-specific training squat protocols, nor are they going to build as much muscle mass as a hypertrophy protocol, but they're a really good in between. I truthfully tend to lean towards developmental phases unless I'm trying to gain mass or actively prepping for a show. These aren't listed in any particular order except for number 1, which is the front squat versus chains. I really like this variation for the strongman athlete because it forces you to learn a lot of verticality in your torso in the squat, so it has a lot of carryover to your push press. The chains, because it gets heavier as you go up, it's really going to hit your upper back hard, so that's going to help improve your loading movements. And then because it's a front squat, that upper back also gets loaded in such a way that it will transfer over to your carrying events. But any of those 4 options you see on screen right now would be a very viable option to run. As far as event support goes for the strongman athlete, what we're doing here is we pick specific squat variations that are done to help carry over to the event we're trying to focus in on. So let's say your Atlas stones are a bit of a weakness. You want to focus in on paused Zercher and front squats. Reason being, if you think about the lap phase for the Atlas stone, there's usually a slight pause there, and you need to come explosively up, usually with a slightly rounded upper back, but not losing that position. So that's why we pick those variations. Conan's wheel coming up, Zercher squats. For carrying events, I like to use a box squat, and the reason why is keeping that squat depth a little bit higher. It's going to hit just a bit more glute and hamstring in my experience, which on those carrying events, those muscles tend to get fried. For the log, an above parallel front box squat is another really viable option for similar reasons, just because you're not going as low, and that's also going to reduce the fatigue you generate. And I know in my own experience, and working with other athletes, the log tends to generate a lot of low back fatigue. So by using the above parallel box, you're going to reduce that and keep more loading in the legs and learn that vertical, shallower dip that the log requires. Truck pull, parallel SSB box squats, again, just hammering that posterior chain. And if it's a yoke, a cambered or SSB squat. And if you are going to use the SSB, put your hands wide. Don't use the handles here because that increases the instability of it where it just gets a little bit of sway to help you keep a more rigid midline. And that's how you go about picking squat variations depending on which events you're trying to dial in on. As far as the squatting all goes, honestly, if I could just give you one piece of advice, buy a friggin' safety squat bar or go to a gym that has one. You can use it for a high bar style squat. You can use it for a low bar style squat. You can even do front squats with it. And I've seen people do Zerchers on them. The bar's super user friendly. It's just easy to do. Takes pressure off your elbows and shoulders, which is great if you're doing a lot of pressing work or you find that you've been at this for a long time and those joints have a lot of mileage on them. You can also do a Hatfield style squat, which is you have the bar in your upper back and you hold onto the uprights of the rack or a crossbar. So it functionally becomes a garage gym leg press. You can use them for JM presses. Get an SSB. So here's a couple sample weeks. I'm not going to talk about set rep schemes on this. This is more of just giving you an overview of how you would implement squat training for that given week. So in the 4-day sample, we're going deadlifts, good mornings, back extensions, abs. Day 2, it's going to be the box squat above parallel, log lift, dumbbell 60-degree incline triceps. Day 3, we're going to work the SSB box squat, truck pull, Atlas stone, abs. Day 4, pure upper body, floor press, strict press, triceps, upper back. Now, the reason we pick these variations is if you can look here, we can infer, okay, log lift, stone loading, and truck pull are obviously the big events we're dialing in on, as well as a deadlift. And by using the higher box, we reduce that low back fatigue, and we hit that posterior chain a little bit harder, which is going to help support the deadlift, the truck pull, and the Atlas stone, especially in the third phase of the Atlas stone, where you're trying to extend hard onto the toes. You need a really strong set of hamstrings, glutes, and lower back. But this helps manage fatigue across the week. Now, the second option there, this is a 3-day week, 2, 1, 3, just ignore that part, okay? You're gonna go box squat above parallel, log lift, triceps, deadlift, floor press, and abs, and then Zercher yoke, and stones. Again, you see here, we're picking variations that have immediate transference to the events we're trying to train. And something I like to do on event days where you are training multiple moving events is I'll pick a squat as a primer using more of a developmental wave, AMOM work, something like that. That way we're moving quickly, we got the blood flowing, and those lower body muscles are warm, they're primed, and just a little bit pumped for greater stability going into that workout. That way you're just ready to hit it. So wrapping up here, your big takeaways, the squat is primarily an accessory lift for the strongman and should be treated as such, and I don't mean skipping it. Use it to support muscle mass, conditioning, or use it to help build other events with targeted variations. 1RMs are really fun, but I honestly think they have questionable value for the strongman athlete. You want to think that getting stronger at it is helpful, yes, but the 1 rep max, I question what that's actually going to do for you. I know when I had an athlete prepping for a show a while back, her and I were talking and she was very nervous because one of her competitors had put up a 4-plate squat in training, but as I told her, there's no squat event at this show. What does it matter? And then on the events that did matter, like the max deadlift, my athlete was pulling several hundred pounds more than her competition, which tells us everything we need to know. Boxes really help reduce joint strain. They change the angles a little bit because that helps us with long-term recovery over the week. One of the big things you want to think about with strongman training is not just your in-session fatigue, but how your fatigue is generated across the week. Buy a freaking safety squat bar. You'll thank yourself later. It just saves you a lot of trouble on this whole thing. And then last but not least, when you are in prep for competition, I tended to remove all squatting when I'm 1 to 2 weeks out for my athletes, just because at that point we've extracted the maximum benefit from that movement and we want to focus in more on recovery and touching the event work and keeping the skill element high while shedding fatigue. Anyways, folks, I hope you found that useful. Likes, comments, shares, and saves really help me with the algorithm and help me grow this channel so I can produce more content like that. And until next time, you folks have a great time, stay safe, and remember, train your squats.